we've finally reached a point in this journey where nutrition is finally entering the chat. I've put that completely on the back burner for the last 9 months because I was super hyper focused on recovery. As soon as nutrition would enter into my mind when it came to food choices, I would very quickly enter into a binge purge cycle. I would say that I feel safe enough to start to incorporate what I know about nutrition and what I continue to learn about nutrition into the reasoning for my food choices, without letting it overwhelm me to the point of pushing me towards a binge. Because I think I've created a certain amount of safety in myself, in my ability to kind of notice when I'm starting to have those certain thoughts and behaviors that lead to a binge. I've been focusing on gentle nutrition for the last week and a half, and my approach is as it sounds. It's gentle. I think there's so many people with an eating disorder who would benefit from gentle nutrition on a physical level. Like, they'd physically feel better. They'd have better energy. But the problem is, in the recovery space, there are so many people who try to avoid talking about nutrition because it can be very triggering. And so I do want to say that, like, I would not watch this video again if you are not feeling safe in yourself, where you feel like, I could have a binge tomorrow and I wouldn't spiral after. Like, no one ever really knows, but I think most of us have a quiet confidence once we reach a certain place in our recovery where we can say, yeah, I haven't, binged in I don't know how long, but if I were to, I think that I could safely get out. So I see a lot of people in the recovery space, dealing with a lot of physical ailments, and it's kind of like nutrition is part of it. You don't want to jump the gun and start to worry about nutrition if you're still having binge and purge episodes frequently. But at some point it has to enter the chat, and you have to find a way to incorporate it without triggering your binging or whatever eating disorder you have. And that's really, it's a dicey thing to try to manage. And trust me, I know I could just really lean in to the fact that I have a tendency towards disordered eating and say, no, I can never think about nutrition. I'm just going to eat whatever I want, because otherwise, if I don't just allow myself to eat whatever I want, I will trigger my binging, and I don't want that. So I'll just stay in this safe space where I really don't have to pay much attention to my food choices. Whatever feels good, but the problem is, like, you're hijacked in a sense. So you can no longer just trust your intuition these days. That's not how nutrition really works in the United States. It's hard to trust your intuition because your intuition is going to tell you to eat more than you really need to, because of the way that these companies manufacture their foods so that they are addictive, so that your intuition does tell you to eat a massive amount of something so calorically high and nutritiously low. So here we are. I would say it comes down to two things in the beginning for gentle nutrition. I've been focused on adding in foods, adding in things that I normally had forgotten about. So I started adding in more vegetables, some more fruits, some things that I know are nutritiously dense, things with probiotics, things like kimchi. I'm starting to re-enter those things into my choices that maybe back then were done out of a desire for weight loss, But now I'm entering them in because I know how important they are to my cells, to my body, to feeling good. The importance of micronutrients, it cannot be, brushed aside. The importance of giving my body what it needs in order to function properly. And so that in the long term, I am not dealing with cardiovascular issues or diabetes, insulin resistance. Like, I'm trying to avoid that as much as possible. I want to live a long and healthy and able life. And I have to consider how much food impacts your ability to do those things, how much movement impacts your ability to do those things. So number 2 is preparation, and that's because for gentle nutrition, you do want to be a little bit more mindful about what you're putting in your body, and that usually means you having to prepare the food and cook the food. I think eating out often, at least for me, has never felt good. Physically, it's never felt good. It's easy. It's the easy route, and it's the expensive route for the most part. But eating out often has never felt physically good. And in recovery, I would allow myself to eat out because I used to think about it so poorly in terms of like, oh, I'm eating out, and think like, oh, this is going to make me fat. And it was always about like my appearance. But truthfully, it didn't feel good either. And in recovery, that really became like oh, it really doesn't feel good to eat out often. And even whether or not I allow myself to, or I tell myself it's okay to, it still feels crappy at the end. And it's outside of like, it's not because of guilt. It's because it physically just doesn't feel good. So being focused a little bit on nutrition and thinking about the good stuff that you want to put into your body means that you have to kind of be the one prepping it and cooking it, at least sort of. And that means giving yourself the time to do that. I think those are the 2 things that I have been focusing on now entering gentle nutrition, and they have proven safe. They have proven comfortable in terms of like, oh, I can do this. I can start to think about these things and it doesn't trigger anything. But like I said, you don't want to rush into that. I tried to rush into it before and it didn't pan out well. I started having very binge-y type thoughts and behaviors. And I was like, oh, okay. Back up. You're kind of trying to jump the gun a little. I think it was easier for me to get back into the gym and do like physical training than it was to get myself to refocus on food, because it's like it's too close to the it's too close to the issue at hand than working out was. I'm so happy to finally be here though. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm so happy to be in a place where I'm able to joyfully think about nutrition and choose it without it pushing me to become obsessed over it. I wasn't sure if I was ever going to be able to be at this point, but now it feels like, oh, I can do this. I can think about nutrition and not be all of a sudden triggered into a new spiraling downward cycle thing. Binge. Words are getting harder and harder. That means it's time to stop recording. If you guys have any questions for me, please feel free to leave them in the comments down below. I kind of shot from the hip with this one, so there's a very likely chance that I'm gonna edit this and be like, ooh, I should have mentioned this, ooh, I should have mentioned that, but here we are, and I'm gonna edit this nonetheless and upload nonetheless, because that's what you do. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. If you're curious about my recovery journey thus far, I would recommend you check out this video, and I will catch you guys on the next one.